Welcome to those of you that are here for the first time. My name is Bogdan Kopil. I am one of the tech specialists working with Edpuzzle on looking at how you can actually use technology in the classroom and how you can improve teaching when it comes to using apps and tools and so on and so forth. We already had 3 sessions in the past 2 weeks. We had the session where we went over the basics of how to get started with that puzzle, how to create an account, how to assign the first video, and so on and so forth. We had a second session last week where we were looking at some of the pedagogical approaches and strategies that you can use when you actually use video lessons with your students. And yesterday we had a session on how to actually create our own original video content, our own videos. Today's session focuses more, once again, on the pedagogy behind working with video. And we'll also have a look at certain best practices and tips and tricks for actually using Edpuzzle with your students. So this is, in a nutshell, what we'll be covering today. Just a quick intro, just in case there's somebody in the audience that has not been in the previous sessions and you're not very familiar with Edpuzzle. Basically, what Edpuzzle does is it allows you to start from a video, and that video can be any video from YouTube or a video that's hosted on the Edpuzzle platform. And that's one of the great things about Edpuzzle, because educators actually share their videos. So there will be quite a lot of videos that you can use for your lessons as well. Or you can, of course, record your own videos as well. Then what you can do on top of those videos, you can add some questions and some interactive elements. So you could add multiple choice questions or open-ended questions. You can also add notes, be it written notes or audio notes, and then you can assign those videos to your students. They will watch the videos, they will answer the questions, and then you can easily track their progress. You can see how much of the content they actually assimilated and understood, and so on and so forth. In a nutshell, this is what Edpuzzle does. Once again, this is a very, very quick intro, just for those of you that might not be familiar with Edpuzzle. Now, we will go through this whole process of setting up videos and showing you how to get some of these questions on the video a bit later when we go into the demo stage, where I'll show you how to leverage some of the features that you have in Edpuzzle and some of those that could be very, very useful for what we are trying to achieve with our students. Now, of course, if you do have any questions related to Edpuzzle or using videos in the classroom or anything, just let us know, type your question in the chat, or just unmute yourselves and come forward and ask the questions. So why should we, or why would we even use Edpuzzle? Just a few tips and some hints here. It is very easy to use, as you'll see a bit later when I get to the demo stage. It's very easy to put a video lesson together, starting from any video you choose. As I said, you can actually encourage students, you can give them autonomy, you can actually give them freedom to choose what they want to work on. And that's also something that we will be looking at today. But at the same time, you can keep them accountable, because you will see how much of the video they watched. You will know how many questions or how many answers were correct or wrong. And they will know that as well from the get-go. So that's something that helps them stay accountable and in many cases, stay on track. And also, if you use Edpuzzle with different pedagogical approaches, like, for example, the flipped classroom, you can actually save some time during the lessons for those higher level learning activities. So rather than you simply introducing the content during the lessons, you can actually introduce the content prior to the lesson with an Edpuzzle video, and then during the lesson, during the actual class time, you can just work on other activities. So as I said, today's session will be focused on tips and tricks and some general ideas for actually getting the most out of using Edpuzzle and out of video lessons in general, right? So here are just a couple of things, and these are the bits and pieces that we will explore today. There's way more that we can use here, but these are just some starting points, right? the very first tip I will say, it's really easy to implement, and it's great for us as educators to always remember this. Students react and consume content in different ways. Some might consume content better if they have more visual stimuli, more images, and so on and so forth, whereas some others might react better to audio. The same thing goes when we actually want to allow students to express themselves. So this is also in line with what's called the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. The UDL principles were built around the idea of making lessons accessible for everybody. This is in line with two of the UDL principles, right? You have multiple means of engagement. You have also multiple means of action and expression. You give students some choice in terms of how they consume the content and also how they communicate. Then we'll quickly have a look at the live mode, which can be of great use when you use it with your students during the lesson time. Student projects, we'll explore that a bit. 360 degrees videos. Then we'll dive a bit into this idea of differentiation and choice boards. And this could be easily coupled with hyperdocs. So they go hand in hand. And Edpuzzle makes it way easier for us as educators to either differentiate and assign differentiated tasks based on levels, for example, or in some cases, it allows us to actually allow some choice for the students. And then we'll quickly dive into app smashing. And app smashing is a term that you use when you combine different apps. So in our session yesterday, we did have a look at how you can use Edpuzzle in conjunction with Explain Everything, for example, or with Equatio when it comes to creating videos. Today, we'll explore some other ideas for actually combining different apps with Edpuzzle, and we'll have a look at one example, which is Google My Maps, but there's lots of other options there as well. So let's start with the multimedia and making great use of multimedia. These are just some quick tips that I will mention. And then, as I said, as we dive into the demos, I will also show you where and how to do this. Now, one of the key things here to remember is that especially in the secondary school and primary school as well, but this is the age range when students are really happy to hear your voice as a teacher, as their educator. It makes the videos more familiar. So this is where I would encourage you, whenever possible, you can either add a voiceover. So voiceovers are available for videos hosted on Edpuzzle. You cannot add a voiceover on a YouTube video because that would be against the terms of service for YouTube. But for any video you find that's hosted on Edpuzzle, or for any of your videos, you can actually add a voiceover and make sure that your students do hear your voice, and therefore they will have a better engagement, and they will be capable of absorbing the content much better and easier, because that familiarity helps a lot. So this is one of the first things you can do if you do have a video that's created by somebody else. Besides the voiceover, you can also add voice notes or audio notes. So this is the next thing, and this is especially useful for those videos that are coming from YouTube, for example, because as I said, on those ones, you cannot add a voiceover. You can still add audio notes, and you could add them at the beginning of the video. That's a great tip for you. Or you could add them also at a later point during the video as well. Now, if we flip the tables, as I said, when it comes to audio, you can leave voice notes. You can also add a voiceover for certain videos. Use this also for your students. You'd be surprised how many students actually feel more comfortable in replying to the questions in audio format. So whenever you have an open-ended question, I would strongly encourage you to allow students to also give you voice or audio responses. Talking about going back to the UDL principles and allowing students multiple means of engagement and expression, and so on and so forth. This is where you actually encourage everybody to express themselves in the way that works best for them. Some students might choose to just type the answers. Some others might choose to actually come up with an audio response. Besides this, when you look at the types of media you can use in the different questions you have on the Edpuzzle videos, I would also strongly encourage you to make good use of images. So we've covered the audio part, but let's cover also the video part or the visual part, right? So in the questions, when you add either multiple choice questions or open-ended questions, you can add images both in the actual question and in the possible answers for the multiple choice questions. So this is where we'll dive quickly into a small demo. And I just want to show these things that I've just mentioned. And also this would be a good opportunity for those of you that might not be so familiar with Edpuzzle to see this whole process from the beginning till the end, right? So this is my Edpuzzle interface, really easy, pretty straightforward, easy to navigate and find your way around. But let's say I want to find a video related to the carbon cycle. And because I was a science teacher, so I'll just use this one as an example, right? You already have some videos that show up in the community section. So these are videos that were already created by other educators. I can also go to YouTube and start from a video that's on YouTube. So I'll just choose the crash course because I do know that this is a good channel and they usually have good videos. I can then edit my video and I can add those elements that I've mentioned. So this is a pretty long video. It's 10 minutes. So this is also a good tip for you, especially when you work with secondary school students. Make sure that you actually use shorter videos rather than longer ones. And if you do have a long video, like this one, for example, 10 minutes, it's not that long, but keep in mind, students nowadays have a shorter attention span. What you could do is you could actually split this video into. So you would say, well, you know what, I want to use the first 5 minutes of the video. So let's say until here. Of course, normally I would watch the video and I would choose the suitable time. I could use this first half of the video for one video lesson, and then I could use the second half for a follow-up video lesson. So this is also great that you can split videos from here as well. The voiceover, once again, here it will not work because this is a YouTube video. Remember what I said. For YouTube videos, you cannot add the voiceover because it would be against the terms of service. And now for the questions, I'll only show those bits that I've mentioned earlier, which is good idea, good practice, start with an audio note so you could give your students some instructions. So of course, make sure that you add the note at the right spot. So in this case, I want to have the note at the very beginning. Hello, everybody. This is a video about the carbon cycle. Watch the video, pay attention to how carbon is moving from one stage to another in nature, and let's talk about it during our lesson. So this would be the video message or the note that I can add at the beginning. It's always recommended to have a note at the beginning with some instructions or some context for the video and just guiding your students through what they actually have to do during that video lesson. And if you do have a voice note, that's even better because, as I said, students can actually hear your voice as well. Now, the other part, I will also show you how we can leverage the images used on questions. So if, let's say, I want to add a multiple choice question, I would ask something like which one represents, or which one is carbon. And here, of course, I could add some images. I actually already saved some images, so I will upload them from my computer. And I have some small images related to different chemical elements. So this would be one of them. I can also add another one, which actually shows carbon both as coal and as a diamond. And I can add another one just to have more options. And I will also add sulfur, let's say. So at this stage, what I've done is I've actually used images as answers. I can still choose the correct answer. So I can tell Edpuzzle which one is the correct answer, and it will grade the questions automatically for my students, right? And this is how the question will look like. So the question and the answers, and then students can actually choose. Of course, they will not see the correct answer until they submit their answers, and that's only when they will see this. This is for me as a teacher. Besides this, also remember that in the Edpuzzle interface, you also have the equation editor. So let's change this from a multiple choice to an open-ended question. If I do want to use some mathematical expressions and functions and so on and so forth, you will have the equation tools that you can use for writing your question, and they can be used also for the multiple choice answers as well. Now, keep in mind, if you do want to have some, let's say you have an equation editor that you might use somewhere else, you could just take a screenshot, save it, and use it as an image here as well. Now, this is where also I was mentioning the audio responses, and this would be great for giving students the choice in how they actually answer your questions and in what environment, what medium they use for it. So many students might have an easier time just recording the audio response rather than typing. You can do that here as well, right? Let's say I'll add a random question. How do you feel today? Just so that we can exemplify this, and you can see that you can actually have an audio response here as well. Now, this is the point where, once again, I do encourage you to mix and match these things, make good use of audio and of the actual visual representations. Even though we already have the visual component in the video, we can actually still use images, as you've seen, both in the multiple choice questions and actually also in the open-ended questions. So I could actually upload an image in the actual question, and then I could ask students some questions related to that image. That's also entirely doable, and it's a good option. Once again, when I'm done, let's say I'll finish it, and this video will now be saved in my content in Edpuzzle. So if I go to my content now, I will see my video right here. Now that we are here in the my content section, just another quick tip for you. Make sure that you organize your videos in the Edpuzzle interface. Why? Because the more videos you create, you'll end up with lots of videos here, and it will be difficult for you later on to navigate and find the videos you need. So what I would recommend is for you to actually create folders and to place the videos in the folder that you need. So here, for example, I could use this one, and I would just say, well, I want to move it to a folder, and I will move it to chemistry year 7. So this is another tip for you. This is more for you as an educator in terms of working with videos in Edpuzzle. Make sure you keep things organized and neat and tidy. Now, this would be the starting point for the media part. What else I've mentioned? I did say that besides working with the media part and audio and images, I would recommend you to also think about using the live mode. So live mode in Edpuzzle can be great for lessons. And now that we sort of get back to working with our students directly, even though for a limited time, this could be a great moment to actually explore using live mode more. So what's the story with live mode? Basically, you do have the lesson, the video lesson created in Edpuzzle, but instead of having students go through the lesson at their own pace whenever they get to the lesson, you actually can use it during your direct contact time, during your actual class time. And this is a great tool and a great way to plan ahead. So you can plan lessons also with the possibility of remote learning or some students being away and joining you online from their devices. So hybrid learning approach. And if you do have the lesson that you plan to use with the live mode, you can actually use the same video lesson, and students can choose if they complete it with the live mode when you're during the lesson. But if somebody doesn't make it, let's say for the lesson, they can still go to the video later. So that's one advantage for the live mode. So what's the story with the live mode? you basically use any video or any Edpuzzle assignment, you assign it to your students, and then when you start live mode, you control the pace of the video. So when there's a question, the video stops, students answer the questions on their devices. And then, of course, students can still access the assignments after, right? So this is where you see on the screen how this would work. So the teacher starts the live mode lesson, they will display the video on their device. And when there's a question, the video stops, students have the chance to answer the questions on their devices, they submit, and then you, of course, as a teacher, will have an overview of all the student responses. That works great for lessons because you actually get input from your students on the spot. You get input from all of your students. And especially if you have, let's say, multiple choice questions, that makes it really easy for you to actually have an overview of how well the students understood that topic. So keep in mind, you can use it both during the live lesson as a live mode, but you can also have the same video then watched by those students that were not in the lesson, and they can still answer the questions. They can still give you their input. So this is also, by the way, another tip. If your students are new to Edpuzzle, this is also a great way for you to introduce them to Edpuzzle, because you can actually show them around and they can get used to the interface and they will see how Edpuzzle actually works. And then later on, you can also assign the regular Edpuzzle videos where they will be working on their own. So this is what live mode does. Now, these are just some quick ideas for actually using live mode during your lesson. So you can experience a poetry reading, or you could watch a read aloud when somebody is reading a book or a poem, and you can actually have questions embedded on the video at various times in the read aloud or in the poetry reading. Now, you can think about creative ways of using it here, right? So let's say somebody's reading a poem, you pause the video, and then you say, okay, students, how would you continue the next line of the poem, right? So you could actually practice this whole idea of predicting text or terminology, or you could have questions where you ask them to analyze the use of language and the imagery that they were using and the metaphors and so on and so forth. Same story, let's say you want to take students on a virtual field trip to a museum, to a dig site, archaeological dig site, to one of the big monuments like the pyramids or the Great Wall of China or any other bits and pieces like that. And then students can actually see around and you can ask them questions and you could have those conversations. Now, the other part that you can use Edpuzzle for is to showcase student work. And you can use it here also in different contexts. One example would be, you know what, I want to show good examples of work. So this is where you could showcase some of the student work that is outstanding and exceptional and give it as a good example and show students where and what they should focus on to improve their work. Or on the other hand, you could also have this as sort of a gallery walk, right? Where everybody displays their work, you put them in a video, you prepare the video with the student work, and then you could also use it as peer feedback. So you show different pieces of work and you ask the whole class to give feedback or to add suggestions and contribute with ideas and so on and so forth. So lots of different options for combining this as well. Of course, you could also use it for reviewing a video lesson that students completed as homework. So let's say you did assign a video as homework before the lesson. Students did go through the video, they did answer the questions. But when you look at the results, you realize that, well, something is not really clear because most of your students got some of the answers wrong. What you can do then is you just reset the progress for that video and you can use it again in live mode during the lesson. So then this helps you reinforce things, you actually use that during the lesson. This helps you reinforce those bits and pieces, and it also helps you to clarify those, especially those bits where you notice that your students were struggling. Then lots of different other options. You can even think about observing like a science experiment or different events where you have the video, you pause it at certain times, and you ask students to make predictions, for example, like what will happen at this stage. Or at the end of the experiment, you could ask them to evaluate the results and give their input, and so on and so forth. These are some things related to teaching, right? But just a reminder, you can also use Edpuzzle in other contexts, not necessarily related to transmitting content related to the lessons. So let's say you have a class syllabus that you want to present to your students, or for me, because I was a science teacher, I always had to go through the lab safety rules and the behavior contracts we had at the beginning of each school year. So this would also be a great idea for using live mode, because you could actually introduce students to, and by the way, students or parents, this is where you could also bring in parents, and you could actually have an open class for this. So you could introduce them to the policies and procedures of the lab or of the classroom, and so on and so forth. So these are just some bits and pieces and some quick ideas for the live mode. I want to quickly show you where you find the live mode, and also to talk a bit about what I said earlier about the possibility of bringing parents into a class, because that's where we need to maybe change some things in the way we use Edpuzzle for that particular case scenario, right? So let me go back to a video that I've assigned. So I will choose a video that I've already assigned to my students, and I will use the demo class science. And let me use this video about DNA. So as you see, so the way you work with this is you create the video, you assign it to your students, and then when you want to go live, you can just go to the video and you can click on the live mode. So what this does is that it actually starts the live mode. Then you will have to wait for the students to join. When students join, their names will be highlighted in black. You will know that they are connected, and then you can actually start the lesson. And then the video will play on your device. And when there's a question popping up on the video, it will stop playing the video, and students will be able to answer the questions on their devices. Just a reminder, if you do want to use live mode, make sure that you assign the video before you actually want to use it, because otherwise some of the more enthusiastic students might answer the questions before the lesson. So then they will do this ahead of time. And once again, as you see, video stops playing. Students will only see this part on their devices, so they will be able to answer the questions, and then you'll have their answers as well. Now, something else I've mentioned here in this scenario where, let's say you want to have to present a syllabus or something like that for parents, let's say, or you want to showcase some student work for the whole school or for the whole year group, or for students that are outside of that normal classroom. Normally, what you do in Edpuzzle is you have all of your students in the class, and when you assign a video lesson, they work on it in that small group. In this kind of situations, though, where you want to have other people join that class, one option, and this is one thing that should be done through Edpuzzle if you want to do this rather than your learning management system. So as you see here, I'm using Google Classroom for this class, and it's synchronized. Everything is done automatically via Classroom. But if I want to bring in parents, for example, or if I want to bring in students that are outside of my class, I will not be able to do that through the Classroom integration. What I would need to do in that case, though, is to create a new class from my classes. And if I create one through Edpuzzle rather than the actual learning management system, I can I'll call this demo open class. I can actually create an open class on Edpuzzle. So what's the story with an open class? This is suitable for, in some cases, elementary teachers where you have smaller kids and they struggle with logging in and accounts and whatnot. Or you could use this for quick practice activities or activities where you want to bring in other people than the ones you usually have in your group. So parents or students from other classes. And here, this is how it would work. If you do this, basically students can actually just join without even having any account, having a Google account. So you can just copy the link, send it to the students, and then they will be able to join just as well, students or parents, and both of them work. So what I'll do is, once again, you can actually just share the link. They just click on the link and they will be inside the classroom straight away. Now, keep in mind, the open classes, you do not have a list of students for that reason. You will not have the analytics stored in Edpuzzle. You will only have the results for that video. Once you're done with that video and you close it, then all the data is gone, of course, because you do not have a class list. You do not have a grade book for open classes. So this is something that might be very useful, especially when you want to, as I said, mix and match and combine different groups or different students into one activity. Cool. Just a reminder, if you do have questions, do let me know. I do encourage you to come forward with the questions. I do want to quickly show you now that we are in the demo section. I want to quickly show you also the 360 videos and the student projects, because these are also two of the slightly different approaches for using Edpuzzle. So remember what we said, usually with Edpuzzle, you assign the videos and you collect answers from your students. But just as well, if you go to the add content, you can actually use student projects instead. So what's the story with student projects? In this case, you turn the tables and you have students add elements on top of the video. So here I will just say the nitrogen cycle, let's say, and I will just say identify the stages of the nitrogen cycle. And I will, of course, give the instructions for my students. So I'll just say, choose a suitable video. It looks like I'm not able to spell today. Choose a suitable video. And then, of course, this is just for the quick demo. I just wrote the first step of the instructions. I could add more details there as well. So this is where I'll find my project. I can then edit it. I could add more details here, like don't just choose a stable video. I would say add 5 questions, notes on the video. And of course, I would give better instructions in the actual student project. Now I just want to quickly show you how this works. Then I would assign it. Students will actually get the link for the student project, and then they can actually just start working on the project, and they will be able to do the exact same thing like we are doing as educators, and they can actually add questions, they can add notes, they can add all of the same interactive elements like we can on the videos. So this is where, once again, talking about empowering our students and actually giving them the option to play around with the tools that we use as teachers as well, because this is a big thing. In many cases, they do enjoy having that option as well. So I'll quickly change the view. So I'll show you one of my student accounts. So you can see how this would look like for my students, right? So this is my demo account, the student account. This is the project. In this case, I've used Google Classroom to share it. It's the same if you share it via Microsoft Teams or directly in Edpuzzle as well. And then students can sign in with the same account. Like in this case, I will use Google. I have the instructions. I can start the project. I can find the YouTube video. Now, just a heads up here, you can actually soon students will also be able to record their own videos. So this is coming, just a reminder, you'll be able to do this soon, and your students will be able to record their own videos. And from here, as a student, I have the same options like you've seen in the demo earlier. I choose the video, I use it for my project, and then I'll have the same interface like I had in the teacher section. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I can cut the videos, I have questions and everything else. So I do encourage you to have a look at student projects. This is one easy way to actually get students engaged and actually work around this part. Now, there's another big part related to using Edpuzzle. And I did mention this earlier, the differentiation part. And this is where I want to give you some tips and tricks and some ideas and show you how easy it is to actually assign either different videos to different students or to give them the option to choose what they want to work on. So what normally happens in Edpuzzle is that, as you've seen earlier, I create the videos, I can assign them to my students, and I can actually, they will find the links in Classroom or Teams or the learning management system they might be using. Or if I assign them in Edpuzzle, I can guide them to Edpuzzle and they will find the links there. Now, if it comes to differentiation, and if I want to give them options, if let's say, I want to create a choice board, that's where I would need to slightly change things a bit. And I just saw that the question in the chat, can all teachers at the school see the student projects submitted? So normally, no, that's only for that class. So when students submit their projects, you see those as a teacher. But then that's the good part about it. You could showcase the student projects. So if you have some which are better suited, you could actually showcase them for the whole school, or you could use some of the videos that they found and you could actually share them with the rest of the class. So the student projects are connected to that particular class, so you will only be able to see them as the teacher for that class. Or if you have some co-teachers, they will of course be able to see those student projects as well, but they will be contained to that particular class. So so thank you for that question. I'm not sure I do have a student project that's turned in. So let's leave that for the end of the session, and I'll have a look if I do have a student project that is shared with me. If not, I can try to submit one from my student account. So let's put that for the Q&A session, so I can actually show the differentiation part and the choice boards, and then we'll try to tie it together also with the student projects. So what's the story with the choice boards and differentiation and hyperdocs as well? That's also one part which is actually quite good to keep in mind. So I will change back to my Edpuzzle interface and we'll spend a bit of time here just showing you around some of these bits and pieces for the way to actually assign lessons in such a situation. So what do I mean by differentiation and choice boards? Let's use a simple example for a choice board. Basically, a choice board would be a document or a presentation or an artifact where students can choose between different activities, right? So just a quick example, this is a slide I've created earlier. It's nothing fancy, and that's why I've kept it simple for the sake of this video and for the sake of this demo. So here I have the water cycle, the carbon cycle, and the nitrogen cycle, and I would want to assign different videos for each one of these cycles, right? So let's have a look at the video that I've just created earlier. So if I go to chemistry year 7, I did create a carbon cycle video earlier for this purpose. So what I'll do is I'll go to this video, I will assign it to my students, and of course I will assign it to the demo class science, because this is the one we use for the demo. Now, what I would normally do is I would assign it to the class, and I would also post it on Classroom or on Teams or on any other learning management system I would use. What I want to do in this case, though, is not to post it on Google Classroom. Why? Because I don't want all of my students to get the link to the video. I just want to assign it to my students so they have access to it. But then I want to manually link that video to my choice board. So I will assign it. Once I have the video assigned, this is where, once again, if I want to use it in live mode, I can do that. But I can also, if I check the 3 dots here, I can actually share the assignment. So what I can do now is I'll go to share assignment. I will copy this link, and then I will go to my choice board and I will insert the link here. So I can just go and link it, and I will paste the link. And to make things better and easier, I will also actually link the same assignment on the actual image. So I'll go to the image as well, and you could do the same thing. So you could insert the link on the image. You could just play around with this and make sure that students have the option to actually get to the video, right? And then they will be able to actually find the video that you've shared with them. Now, in this case, because I've used the image, I took the image from the Explore tool, it's already linked, right, to the original image. So I could remove the link and I can then relink it to the actual video. So I could just paste the link here, and then I have a second option. Students can click on the image or on the actual name of the video. So this is where I've shared one link for one video. Same story. If I want to have the water cycle for the other one, I'll go and I will get the link for this one. I will paste it here, and same story over and over again. I will just make sure that I have all the options linked on the slide deck. Now, this is a very, very quick demo, and the whole idea was to get you thinking about how you can combine videos, and also to remind you that in this case, rather than assigning the video and posting it to my learning management system, I would encourage you just to assign it without actually posting it, and then you get the link and bring them here. Now, what would be the next step? Of course, I would add all the links, and then I can share this as it is with my students. Or here's a quick tip: rather than sharing this as a slide deck, I would actually download it as a PDF document, right? Why would I recommend downloading it as a PDF document? Because if I do download it as a PDF, the links are still clickable. So students can actually click on the link here and on the image just as well, and they will be taken to that video assignment or lesson assignment of that particular lesson. But also, they cannot move things, they cannot change them. Whereas if I would share the slide deck, they could get confused, and especially if they have edit rights, they could change things around, move them around. So in this case, if you do have it as a PDF, it's pretty easy, straightforward. They can just click on the links. Now, another quick tip here is, if we don't necessarily aim for creating choice boards. So this is an example where I showed you a choice board using Google Slides. You can use different other tools for this as well. There's also the idea of using hyperdocs. So what are hyperdocs? Hyperdocs are basically documents where you have links to different resources, or where you have multimedia in the document, and so on and so forth. Now, there's a whole discussion about the pedagogy behind it and the structure of the hyperdocs and the 5 stages. So this is one example of a hyperdoc model or framework that you could use for a whole lesson or for a whole unit, where you start with engaging your students, you give them some materials to explore, you then dive deeper and you have more explanations in different group activities. Then you ask them to practice their skills and extend their thinking, and then you evaluate the whole process. Now, in such an example, in such a stream of events, you could easily embed Edpuzzle video lessons in any of the stages. So you could have some video lessons at the beginning where you actually have a group activity, which could be a video used in live mode, for example. Then for the explore part, you actually give them study materials as video lessons and so on and so forth. And the idea is the same. What you would do here is you would take the link for the video. Let's use this one as an example. And in your actual document, you would actually just have the video lesson. And I'll just say start by watching this video. And you could actually put the links, of course, and you would insert the link to the actual Edpuzzle assignment. Now, this is where you can combine things as well with other apps. You don't have to stick to just Edpuzzle. You could combine with other apps as well. But in this whole structure of a hyperdoc, Edpuzzle fits really, really well in different stages. You could use it for engaging students. You could use it for giving them extension materials for those that want to dive deeper or explore different bits and pieces. You could also use it in the assessment or evaluation part, where you could use Edpuzzle as one of the formative assessment tools, or in some cases, even summative, depending on how you structure it. So this is where, once again, just linking the videos to other documents like a hyperdoc or a slide deck allows you for differentiation, for creating choice boards, or in this case, just hyperdocs guiding students through the whole activity. Now, a similar concept, and I did mention the idea of app smashing. I want to quickly give another example of such an approach where you combine Edpuzzle with other apps. And I'll just give one free example, one quick and easy example, which is also free, especially if you're using the Google Workspace already. But I just want to give this as an example to get your ideas flowing and get the creativity out there. So what's the whole idea with Google My Maps? It is part of Google Drive. And basically what it allows us to do is to add different elements on a map. So there's lots of things and lots of ways in which you could actually use Google My Maps. But one example I want to give here is something from my own practice. So when I was teaching science year 7, one of the big projects my students were working on was the periodic table of elements. And every student had to choose an element, and they had to do a lot of research about that element and put together a poster or a video or a presentation about that element. And then I wanted to have one way in which I could showcase their work. So this is where, once again, we can think about this as also showcasing student work. And depending on what you're teaching, so for me, for this particular project with the elements and science, what I've asked or what I've done was to add different pointers on the map related to where the elements were discovered or where the name is coming from. So here, for example, if I'm thinking about polonium, I could add one pin somewhere close to, or I could add a marker in Poland, right? So I will add, let's say, the marker here. I would call this marker polonium for the chemical element. And I can easily now just, this is the beauty of it, I can easily add links to either some Edpuzzle video lessons. So I will use the same link again that I've used earlier just to showcase how this would work. And I would have different points on the map. Now, of course, this is an example of how I would use it for a science lesson, but I can add, I could add elements related to historical events, related to traveling, related to foreign languages, related to current events, related to books, like where is the action happening in a certain book, and so on and so forth, right? So I do have lots of options here, and I do have lots of options in terms of working with the elements I want to add on a map in this case, because we were using this as an example, right? So I could add another marker also close to Hong Kong, for example, and I could add another video lesson here as well. So this is where we have, once again, lots of options when it comes to actually working with the videos, the links we want to add here, working with the lessons we want to share with our students. And just like earlier, when I was showing you the whole idea with the different options, I will choose the link for a different video, share the assignment, get the link, bring it to the map, paste it here, and so on and so forth. So when I'm ready and my map is prepared or ready to share with my students, this is what they will see. Of course, I will give some instructions. They will see the link, they can click on it, and they will be taken to that Edpuzzle video lesson. Now, this is once again just a quick example with my maps with another app that you can use in conjunction with Edpuzzle. You can use it with Book Creator, Quizzes, Kahoot, different animation softwares, explain everything like we've said yesterday in the session, Equatio, lots of different options here. I just wanted to give you this example with my maps because this is one way that shows us how easy it is to combine something like a map with different video lessons and then give students either a choice to from what they want to work on, or the other idea is we could also use this to showcase some of their work. So in my case, the chemical elements research project. In your case, depending on what you're teaching, you could showcase some of their books or some of their research projects or some of the other projects that they might have been working on. So lots of options here, both in terms of differentiation and in terms of app smashing. And we already covered quite a few of these examples. You have lots of options for using Edpuzzle in the class as well. Keep in mind though, these are just like whatever we've shown you today and in the previous sessions, these are just starting points. So there's definitely more than this. There's lots of creative ways of actually using Edpuzzle in conjunction with other apps or just on its own. But the whole idea is to actually play around and explore and check what's happening here. So please feel free to explore, feel free to try things out, feel free to combine different things, and also feel free to connect with other educators as well, especially if you have some questions related to how you can actually use Edpuzzle and how you can actually play around with the content. You can actually just give us a sign as well. And we had a question earlier related to how we can actually how the student projects actually look like when we want to have a look at the grading and everything else. So let me quickly switch back to my grading interface and let me show you the teacher side of things. So basically this is the project that I've shared earlier, and as you see, I can go to the project and I can actually see that I do have one project to grade. This is the one that I've quickly turned in while I was presenting the slides. So what I can do as a teacher, of course, I can give the grade for the student here for the project, and I can actually open their student project and I will see their comments and their notes. Then if I want to, if students found a really good video and I want to use this for another video lesson, I could use that. I can just get the link for the YouTube video and use it. I cannot share the project as it is with my with the other teachers, as I said. So this is only for me as the class teacher to have access to. But if I do want to show this to my class and to my other students, I could easily do this from my class. I mean, from my teacher interface as well.
Welcome to.
So this is how the student projects work. Just a reminder, there will be an option for students to actually record their videos coming in the near future. And that would be exciting because then they will be able to just record themselves or their camera or their desktop, and they can actually turn in their own videos. So now that we've shared some ideas for using Edpuzzle with the secondary school teachers, teachers and students, I just want to see if you have any questions before we slowly wrap the session. Because once again, the whole idea for the session was to give you some ideas for using Edpuzzle with your students and to encourage you to explore and dive deeper.